Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Lisa can hear you. Wow.
Okay. Hi, Diego. Hi, everyone. So we have just been able to enter the room. So please give us a couple of minutes just to put the slides on the screen and make sure that Jerome is also able to participate. Jerome, I see that you are in the room. Can you talk, please, to see if everything is fine?
Hey, Laurent, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted people to know that we're having an issue with jabber.ietf.org. So the chat is down right now. It's being investigated, but chat is not working at the moment.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Alisa. Jerome?
Hello? Hello, everyone?
Hi, Jerome. Yeah, I
Hi,
can hear
okay.
you now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we just put the slide.
You want to project or you want me to show things?
I can project.
Okay, as you like.
Okay, I think it's okay, right? You can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen and it's full screen, so it's okay. I think we can start, Jerome.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So, hello everyone again. I just make this up of this. Okay. So my name is Jérôme François, and I'm the co-chair of NMRG group with Laurent Sirvaglia. So before we enter into the let's say technical discussion, so let me remind that we are a research group, and so we are not developing standard in the research group. So it's more long-term research and collaboration, even if of course we can publish some draft as information or experimental RFC. I think, sorry, I have just maybe to change the slide. Is that the right one? Sorry, I have to check. Yes, it's the right one. I think we. Okay, let me just a second. I have just to change a bit the slide. Sorry for that. Very sorry for that. Just let me 1 second.
Just while Jerome is fetching the right slides, to inform you that it seems there is an ongoing problem with the chat. I mean the Jabber. So the chat is not operative so far. So that's why we have empty chat windows in Meetecho. Okay, so I think this is being tracked down, but I have no more info for the moment. I don't know if it will be restored during the meeting, but in case you would like to speak, you have the raised hand icon on the top of the Meetecho window, and you can request a slot to speak. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laurent. I actually put the right slide for the, we don't have that's the right template. I think we use a former one. So just to, okay, so remind you that we are also follows in Note 12 of the IETF. So if you have any intellectual property concern, you have to disclose no, basically to avoid any issue then. Important. So we are also following a code of conduct so that you have the link if you want to check the full details, but basically be respectful and know that the session is also recorded. So all what is be presented and what will be said will be recorded. So I already said that we are a research group, so I will not continue on that. So okay, this is virtual meeting, so we don't have bullshit. This is automatically recorded by the attendance list. And of course, when you don't speak, please keep your audio muted to avoid any noise when others are speaking. So here you have the different link. As I say, we have some problem for the Jabber and for the chat now. Okay, so as you may know, there is also the Gather tool to have more social interaction. Try to have more social interaction as we have in face-to-face meeting. So we will be there. I mean, the chair, me and Laurent, around after the meeting also. So if you want to continue some discussion, so we can continue also with other participants. So normally, when you will leave the meeting room after the meeting, you should be proposed to enter into the Gather, and so we can continue try to have more, let's say, ad hoc discussion there. Okay. So here is the agenda for today. So we are now so briefly doing some information about the group, and then we enter into 3 different parts. The first part is about IBM. So we'll have 4 drafts that will be presented. We originally planned to have a discussion on use case. Unfortunately, it's cancelled, but we'll give a brief news at the end of the slides. Then we have 2 parts about the, we have 2 presentations regarding artificial intelligence. And finally, the last part is about a new topic or other topic that people have proposed also to present in the group. And that is related to, of course, the topic of the group. So just to give you some news, so okay, future meetings. So we'll continue mostly with of course, the online meeting. So virtual meeting, next one will be in January. We don't think it's already relevant to have in December, but in January we'll have the next virtual meeting. And so for the next IETF meeting, it will be so in March. And maybe in May 2021, we try to have an interim meeting co-located with the IEEE IM conference. So it's not decided yet. It will be fully virtual, this conference, or hybrid. So we don't know yet. Hopefully, maybe we can partially meet there. Or anyway, we will try to have it online and to be co-located with the IM too. Also, the idea of being collected with IM is also to have other people participating to discussion during the conference. So yes, so we will continue relying on online meeting. Or we try to be monthly or bi-monthly meeting, depending a bit on the situation. Of course, we continue to exchange by email, to have dedicated meeting as we have, for example, for the document on AI last week. And also, yes, as you may know, we have a different collaborative tools that we can use, the GitHub, the Google Doc, and so on. So yeah, do not hesitate to share any question, ideas, or you would like that the group continue to work on the different items. It's really important to have your feedback as well. Okay, so here just as I mentioned before, a brief brief overview of the discussion regarding use cases. There was a presentation in the last interim meeting, and so Jefferson is leading a bit this action item, and so he proposed a template on the GitHub platform. We have a list of proposed use cases now that are just summarized here, and there are some, of course, pending questions that we have not yet answered. Basically, one is what will be the outcome of the use case, for what it will be used. We are thinking, of course, it can be used to help in elaborating another work item of the group, like the architecture, what will be the learning of the different use case. One question is also, should we keep the document of use case as separate or try to have a single document? So currently, maybe you have the feeling that people would prefer to have separate at time now, because maybe in the beginning. But anyway, yes, our discussion that we should have template and we should have kind of common level of description. So as we say, the discussion today is cancelled, but Jefferson will and ourselves will continue to pursue this action over the mailing list and the next interim meeting. So here was yes, a brief introduction. So if you have any question before we start with the presentation of the different IBN draft, please let us know. Okay, so I think we can start with the next item. So Laurent, is your turn with the presentation of status of concept and definition draft.
Okay, you want me to share or you continue sharing the?
What you prefer, let me know.
Let me try to share.
Okay, to stop probably.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet. We cannot see your screen now. Ah, yes, it's okay now. No.
Something?
No, it was starting to say that something will be shared, but then it stops.
Okay, let me try again very quickly. Wow, nice. Better now, can you see the slide?
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
The draft?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, so I tried to be quick because this is just an update. So status on intent-based networking, concept and definitions draft. This is a research group document, and I'm presenting on behalf of the co-authors, Alex, Lisandro, and Jeff. So recent history, just to situate a bit the purpose of this draft. So the goal is to contribute towards a common and shared understanding of IBN terms, concept, and functionality. This is why it's called concept and definitions. This work has been around for several years now. So we had version 2 of the research group document posted mid-September. The main updates in this revision was to address a review provided by Ali Rezaki earlier, and so we provided changes according to the review. We also provided a more detailed description of IBN functionality, which is on section 6, with new subsections dedicated to intent fulfillment and intent assurance. Some redefinition of, clarification of the distinction from policy-based management, added a couple of examples of intent. This was requested several times by some comments. And we also have towards the end of the document, kind of hanging items on discussions or future work. And so it's renamed for the moment into additional consideration. And we made various editorial improvements throughout the document. So this was, available for a couple of months now, and we already made a status in the last interim meeting. Since then, there have been a research group last fall, which Jérôme handled. It was started beginning of October and last for the whole month of October. Jérôme, which is also the shepherd for this document, mentioned his conclusions mid-November, a couple of weeks from now. And so for what will be the next step. Just a very high-level outcome of this research group last call for this document. We got very large support, positive expression of support. I counted a bit more than 18 different sources in the research group or participants that express that the document is ready to move on. And we also received in parallel to that some, I will say, more detailed reviews beyond just the support. And so we thank all the research group participants for this support, and especially for the reviews. So this is the status so far, and this is the last slide. Next step, what we will do. So first, we are working on the new version, which will be 0.3. This should be ready in the next couple of weeks. We are a bit busy with the IETF so far, but after that, we will go full speed on this. And the main focus of this revision will be, of course, to address the comments and the reviews received during the last call. There are different levels of comments and reviews, so we have still to figure out the impact of those comments and reviews and the changes we will need to implement. But this is our work, first step. And then once this version is ready, in fact, it's a bit in the end of the shepherd to evaluate, depending of two situations, mainly if it's only a kind of minor revision with editorial changes and clarifications. It may not be necessary to go through a second full research group last call because the support is already there. On the other hand, if to address the reviews, we need to change a bit more text, refactor some of the aspects, restructure the draft, this may be a more major revision, and then we will discuss with the shepherd if it may require to go through a second research group last call, just to make sure that these important changes are validated by the research group again. But again, this is second step, and once this is decided and that we have validated that, we hope to be able to submit to IRSG review. And that's it. Any questions or things you'd like to know on this? Jérôme? Hello?
Yeah, sorry. So, is there any question or feedback? So, as you said, Laurent, you got a lot of, let's say, positive feedback mailing this. So I just can confirm that. So now it's up to you to see how you will address the different comments, and then as you said, yes, depending on the type of modification you will do, then we'll I will check if this is necessary to go for, let's say, kind of formal last call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as I said, there are some reviews that need more attention to really see what changes we need to make to the document. So that's why we couldn't reply until now, but this is really on our table for the next.
Yeah, I think it's good that you receive a review from, let's say, new readers. So basically, you have also an external point of view on somebody that was not aware of the work until now. It's important because these documents somehow give some, let's say, basis or fundamentals for this for the IBN work in the group. So it's important that also the understanding from external reader is well set and well. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so if there is no other feedback, we can move to the second presentation on IBM. So this is about the intent classification. I think it's Chenli that who will present, right? So Chenli, maybe you can just enter into the queue or unmute yourself. And also let me know if you want I share for you the slide or if you want to share the content yourself. Chen? Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
do you want I share the slide or you want to share your screen from your side?
You mean I share the slide?
Okay.
But I don't know how to share it. Wait a moment.
Normally you have your Nikon on top of the participant list with a screen.
你挂在哪上啊？这儿吗？哎，
这个试一下是不是
Yeah, it's coming.
sorry. 咦？哎，点。Sorry, wait for a moment. This is my first time to use the tools.
Can you try again? I think it's gone.
Yes, I try it.
A new screen.
Sorry, there is an arrow on the screen. I don't know why. share 不了，我一 share 它怎么有错误？
No.
So
Hi,
what we
Chair.
see is that
Hi, Lauren. Could you please share
Yeah.
the slide?
Yeah, sure.
I have some problem with the tool. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I will share the slide.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I can see it.
Okay, just let me know when you want to change slide.
Okay. Hello, chairs. Hello, everyone. I'm Chen Li from China Telecom. I will introduce our draft of intent classification. Okay, next slide, please. The brief introduction of our draft about the draft proposals as intent classification methodology to be used to identify the scope and priorities of individual projects, POCs, research, initiatives, or open source projects. The output of the intent classification is the intent taxonomy and describes intent solutions, intent user types, and intent types, and intent scopes, network scopes, and abstractions and life cycle. The three classifications have been proposed in our draft following the classification workflow include carrier solution and data center solution and enterprise solution. Now, IETF 108, there is a POC about a multi-layer approach for IBN solution has been successfully used as an example for our proposed classification methodology. Okay, next slide, please. The history of our draft is about on July the 1st, intent classification draft adopted by the RG, and on November the 2nd, we uploaded the version 1 to IETF, and there are 33 comments addressed since the RG adoption call. And addressing comments of our draft, we have do something to will submit the version 2 about work in process, and 3 comments addressed and merged into Git, and 2 comments outstanding. Okay, next please. The structure of our draft is include the introduction and keywords, acronyms, and abstract intent requirement, and functional characters and behavior. And in section 6 is about intent classification and some other sections. Yes. Okay, next slide, please. From the last meeting, we do some updates about our draft. On version 1, we provided detailed description of the intent classification methodology workflow and how it can be extended. We expanded it in section 6.1. And as we provided intent classification examples based on the IETF 108 POC, a multi-layer approach for IBN for the carrier use case and the DC use case. We add new sections at the section 6.3.3 and 6.4 and 0.3. And then we updated intent descriptions with additional information on how intents manifest from an operational point of view in sections 6.3.1 and 6.4.1 and 6.5.1. We also sharpen our draft's position in relation to intent-based networking concepts and overviews draft. The section involvement of intent in the application of AI to network management has been removed, and we think it would be used in future draft proposals that focus on how to do it. Then various readability improvement we have done. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, we have do something after we submit the version 1, and we will submit version 2 after the meeting, I think. About we continue discussion on POC's integration into draft with Barbara and Water, and we clarification on requirements for different intent types based on context in our draft in section 4.2, and addressing the benefits of intents to network requirements in section 4.3. And there is outstanding about we will add a scope section within introduction for in identifying the scope and the priorities of projects, and then we'll include a definitions section. Okay, next slide, please. acknowledgements. We thank for all the reviews, suggestions, comments, and proposals tests provided by the following members, listed in alphabetical order. Maddie Bensharf, Bernie Carpenter, Lauren, and Alexander Clem, Yahia, and Jerome, Pedro, Daniel King, and Georgian, and Xiaolin. We thank to Barbara and Walter, Mocha, and David for contributing with their multi-level approach to IBM POC demonstration, first attempt to adopt the intent classification. Okay, next slide. Next step, we believe the draft is reasonably stable, and we will address the new remaining outstanding items in version 2, and then solicit draft reviews. Okay, that's all. Thank you. Any questions?
Any question regarding the classification draft?
Laurent speaking. Sorry, Jenny wants to, he's raising hand. Oh, okay. So you think the content is reasonably stable? You indicate also that you had some good, we say, interaction with Walter, Barbara, and Molka on making kind of example with their demo. So you think your document will be ready to proceed after you issue the version 2 towards research group last call, or do you expect? I mean, are there other parts of the content or which should be in scope of the draft that you think should be provided?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if my question was clear. Do you expect to have new topics, new aspects to be developed in the draft?
I think yes.
Yeah.
Wait. Guanyin, you want to say something?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's some other I still like TMF and ETSI is discussing for the intent classification too. So maybe we can seek more comments from the other STO too, I think.
Yes, okay. We can have some the discussion about the intent classification.
Yeah, maybe we can
Okay.
discuss after the meeting.
Okay. We can
Yeah.
have it online.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Olga, please go ahead. Oops.
Olga, you wanted to make a comment? Olga, if you wanted to make a comment, I think you should put yourself back in the queue. You can speak, Olga.
Olga, you
Jerome?
have to unmute yourself, otherwise.
Yeah, Olga, we cannot hear you, and I don't know, Jerome, if you can unmute her, but at least from my side, I cannot.
No, I cannot. Unfortunately, no. I think you have to unmute yourself, Olga. Then, I suppose I don't have any button to do that. I think previous one I had, but
Okay, so just because I think we are drifting a bit and we have a full agenda, I suggest we continue with the next draft, and eventually, if Olga managed to raise her comments, we can hear that still in the IBN slot. Okay, Jerome?
okay, yeah, sure. So next item on the agenda is the transport slice intent presentation by Luis.
Yes, Jerome, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. So do you want I show the slide, or you?
If you show the slides, would be better for me.
Okay. Let me share the screen again.
Okay, thank you. So essentially, I will present the update of the status of the draft. To be honest, there is very few updates, and mostly related to terminology. Essentially, what we have done here is to align with the terminology that is being used in this working group, where we have transitioned from the concept of transport slice to the concept of IETF network slice. So I will go briefly to the point, but essentially this is the main message. So next slide, please. Okay, so again, we have aligned with the terminology being used in this. Now the concept is related as IETF network slice in order to have clear that we are working on top of the technologies that are being developed in IETF exclusively, even though there is yet some discussion in the mailing list about if we need to consider, or at least to reflect the fact that network slicing could go beyond that, including some other things like compute and so. But I think that at the end of the discussions, we will stay yet with the idea of referring only to the let's say connectivity, and then to the IETF technologies essentially. So we have updated as well the basic reference accordingly. So there has been an update of the documents in this working group, also adopting this terminology. So we have done the same. So basically updating to the latest version of those documents. So here maybe is important to say, or relevant for us at least, the proponents of this work, that somehow we do see this as a complement to the work in TIS, in the sense that with this approach, this intent-based approach, we will be complementing what could be related to the concept of IETF network slice controller. So basically, yeah, adding this other piece on top of that controller, dealing with the intents for the creation and provision of the slice, but also whatever has to do with the slice in the IETF scope. Next slide, please. Just as a refreshment of what is the purpose of the draft, so it's to leverage on the IBM technologies for requesting IETF network slices, for essentially assisting the customer, and this customer could be a high-level system. Maybe the system from the 3GPP could be a clear example. So to request and to manage, let's say, the network slice. So so we do foresee the role of this intent-based system as the one managing the scripted request from the customer, and essentially interacting later on with the IETF network slice controller in order to have the slice ready in the network. The benefits of following this intent-based approach are clear for us. Would be the portability of the solutions across implementation and networks. So having these intent-based mechanisms, we could guarantee that portability in an easiest way. Having a simple way of expressing transport IETF network slice needs, and this would assist the vertical customers, for instance, vertical industries, and so to be not so specialized in the particular technology, but essentially working with these descriptive manners of requesting the slice. And essentially, yeah, the focus on the what, that will be the IETF network slice, and not the how. So the essential of the IETF intent-based system. So next slide, please. So as next steps, our intention is to keep working on developing the intent-based capabilities for IETF network slices. So going further of the content that we already have in the draft. Also very important to align with the ongoing propositions for intent-based use cases as discussed in the last interim meeting. So essentially, we finally define a kind of template for use cases, or so adapt the description of this use case to that kind of template, or or even work more deeply in the matching with the intent-based architecture, and so on and so forth. So essentially, trying to align and synchronize with the other activities here in such a way that could be seen, let's say, as not as an independent proposition, let's say, but as something integrated in the overall scope of intent-based within the network management research group. And this is for the draft itself. So for the community, for the group, just to request comments and inputs for growing new versions of this draft, for updating for new versions for sure. And we are considering maybe for the next meeting to ask for adoption as an intent use case. So we remind that there is a number of work items defined, and one of them is the definition or the selection of use cases. So we think that this could be a potential good use case also because we could show the link with this working group, and this could strengthen, let's say, the proposition. And this is all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. So, yeah, I think Laurent, you want to say something, right?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Luis, and others for the work and the updates. I have a comment, which is more a bit of a surprise and a question. The first comment is I saw that there is this terminology update and alignment with TIS about calling that IETF network slice. When I read that, I thought, are you trying to put intent for the IETF network we used to have in the physical IETF meetings? Because for me, IETF network is the IETF network. So I was a bit confused when I saw that first. So I don't know if the terminology will evolve. I know it's done in TIS, design team, etc. But I found it a bit confusing. And I'm not even sure that externally to IETF, it will be well understood what an IETF type of network is.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone else around IETF calls that transport network. I know it could be too limiting, but yeah, it's terminology discussion. But this is just a bit of a surprise for me. And my question is more on the. I think I concur to what you are proposing to continue developing the draft and eventually becoming a research group document on the use case. I think it's a good way forward. I'm just wondering in terms of scope, because I remember that, for instance, Amina was also having some proposal around slice lifecycle automation and other things. if because I think your scope is quite well aligned with again IETF technologies and especially what's being developed in TIS. So I see the value in that. I'm just wondering if you will be open to consider a broader scope than just IETF network slice, so that it can encompass also other types of, I mean, that the intent-based interface or the intent-based characteristics could also be reused by other SDOs or for other types of slice. Just to consider if this will be part of what you would agree, or you will prefer to stick to this specific scope.
Okay, thanks, Laurent. So regarding the first comment, yeah, I didn't like either the terminology. I was more comfortable with the transport slice, but well, this was the consensus reached until now, at least. So we need to live with that, and probably maybe we can find a better name for this draft in order to avoid that confusion. So I agree with you that probably is confusing outside IETF, even inside IETF. But by the way, I didn't change the name of the draft itself. I mean the code, the draft, if and transport slice and so, but just simply the title. So regarding the second point, I see pros and cons, or maybe more than cons. What I would like to yet be, let's say, close to the working TIS. So opening the scope, I think, is interesting and probably necessary in order to be sure that it's consistent with whatever effort that could be done outside, and maybe we can think of 3GPP or in some other bodies. So from that point of view, I think would be beneficial. But I think that also could be somehow interesting or beneficial to keep the link with the working TIS. That in that sense, somehow, I don't know if reducing the scope of narrow down the scope, or at least zooming on what could be the interaction with the IETF network slice controller below, because somehow this helps us to build a complete story. So linking with what we are doing in TIS as well, what we expect to do in TIS. So yeah, I mean, we can discuss. I'm open to go in that direction, but maybe keeping the link with the ground being done in TIS, because I think would be beneficial for us to having the complete story.
Thank you. Makes sense. Yep.
Okay. I think Daniel, you have also a comment or question.
For me?
Yeah. Did you raise your hand? You're in the queue.
Hello?
You can speak. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Can you help me to share the screen?
Oh, okay. It's for the next presentation. I thought you wanted to raise a comment. So just maybe before we go to the next presentation, is there any other comment, question regarding the presentation of the IETF network slice intent? So maybe from my side, so Jérôme François speaking, Luis, I'm not sure to well understand your next point, your last point on the next step slide. So the idea is that when you say ask for adoption of this draft as an NMRG intent use case, you say that in the next meeting. So it means that
Yeah.
You want maybe next virtual meeting you expect to have something more, let's say, concrete regarding how we will pursue in use cases, I suppose, in order to see how it fits. Okay. So
yes, for instance, what we have discussed in some other meetings, this idea of the template for use cases, or even better matching with the intent-based architecture. This is something that is not yet in the draft. So probably if we evolve the work in this for coming months, maybe we can somehow align better this proposition with the overall intent working here, and with that maybe have a more solid draft to be adopted.
Okay. Okay, thanks for clarification. So if there is no other questions, so let's move to the next presentation. That is about network measurement intent. So I will share the slide. Okay. Shen, I think you can see your slide, and so you can start.
Okay, thank you. And then what we are talking about is the network measurement intent. And the original draft can be found in the official website. And next slide, please. And in keeping with our common understanding, we will use the intent-based networking framework in the draft of IDN concepts and definitions to illustrate our network measurement intent. Since the functional models described in our current manuscript are not one-to-one corresponded with the functions in the existing framework, we have divided the architecture into 3 parts in order to explain the overall thinking more clearly. And as you can see, we set recognize or generate intent and translate refine as a part. Learn or plan or render, configure or provision, monitor or observe, validate, and analyze or aggregate as a part, and abstract and report as a part. And in terms of draft intent classification, network measurement intent can be classified as network intent or operational task intent or some other kinds of intent. Okay, next, please. Next slide, please. And next, network measurement intent refers to based on user or network operators' demand for network states, and automatically collect network states information on demand. And then, in order to illustrate it more clearly, we will present the detailed process of each within each divided part, and we will take the measurement intent of busy network performances as an example. In the recognize or generate intent function and the translate or refine function, network measurement intent needs to be translated into actions and requests taken against the network. It means that in the measurement intent of busy network performances, due to network dynamic changes such as daily network bandwidth occupancy rate, the period of network busy time is not fixed. So these functions need to determine the network busy time of the day based on historical data learned by AI, and then determine the content need to be measured. And then we will take the lapping part as a whole, namely the part consists of learn or plan or render function, configure or provision function, monitor or observe function, validate function, and analyze aggregate function. And in this part, based on the required measurement content and the equipment support degree, it determines the corresponding measurement scheme and verifies whether the measurement scheme is feasible. And next slide, please. And at the same time, the light pink part also needs to determine whether the network is busy according to the current network state while the busy time threshold is exceeded. This part performs automatic network deployment, such as in CLI mode. And to meet the requirement of the network measurement intent, this part also needs to collect measurement data on demand. And of course, this data is collected automatically. At the end, the abstract function and report function form the last part. The outcome needs to be reported back to the user to verify whether the threshold meets the requirement and verify whether the network measurement intent is satisfied. If either of the two conditions is not satisfied, the network measurement intent will be modified and readjust the scheme. At the same time, it also needs to determine whether the start time for scheme execution is the start time when the network is busy. And next slide, please. In this page, I will explain the advantages of combining network measurement with intent. First of all is automation. It can realize automatic network measurement and automatic analysis of measurement results. Second is intelligence. It can realize intelligent anomaly detection, anomaly prediction, and automatic repair when the measurement result is not in conformity with the expectation. And finally is the closed-loop control. Due to the closed-loop operation is available in the intent-based network. So we want to realize the continuous optimization of network measurement results based on network measurement intent. And next slide, please. So for the next steps, we will refer to the IBM frame of reference and then update the manuscript and refine the steps for the implementation of the corresponding functions and work with the IBM use case team and then incorporate this use case into the upcoming IBM use case draft. And we are looking forward to the comments, suggestions, and questions. Thanks. Okay, that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Jen, for your presentation. Laurent, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for the work and the proposal. I think there are interesting aspects, if I understand correctly, what you want to do. But I was also a bit confused with some of the way you present things. What I understood is that as an operator or as a customer, you may be interested in getting some reporting information or what you call measurement information corresponding to some expectations, and then that this needs of getting some specific information will trigger different measurements or monitoring activities inside the network. And the other things you are, I think, trying also to put together is that you may want to detect if the measurement or the monitoring can fulfill the expectation of the measurement provided by the operator. And the other thing is that if some issues are in fact happening, and to be able to detect, in fact, from these measurement expectations, if there are deviations from what you expect to see. So for me, what I was a bit confused is that you have at least 2 or 3 phases or aspects that you're looking after in the draft. But the way they are articulated right now, it was a bit confusing for me. So I see potential, but I think we may work maybe together to try to clarify the different steps, or where is the intent and where are the other functionalities coming into play. So this was just kind of observation that I think there are potential, but maybe need some clarification in what you really want to achieve and how you see this to work.
Okay, we will clarify further, and thank you for your suggestions.
Diego, you can speak.
Yes, I agree with Laurent in his comments that this is somehow mixes the idea of measurement with the idea of action. So, I don't know whether building a closed loop or whatever the nature, and this is a little bit misleading. That's true. This said, something that I think is really valuable here and is connected with some ideas that we are starting to work with is precisely the idea when you have a catalog or a database or whatever you call it of, for example, measurement tools and measurement capabilities, and what you express is precisely this: is that you request the measurement capability and not necessarily the tool, because the tool may have to be adapted to the particular environment in which you are going to deploy it. And what personally, I'm trying to connect this with an idea that I'm insisting very much recently, which is about the repeatability. How you guarantee that whatever you do and whatever you report to others, whether it is on a paper or a test report or an experiment report or whatever, is something that can be repeatable by others. An approach like this probably would translate in a higher level of expressing the repeatability requirements, and I think this is if we narrow down a little bit the scope, this will be quite interesting, definitely.
Okay. Thank you for your suggestions, and we will discussion on the relay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again, Chen. We have to move to the next item on the agenda. So we will start with the part related to artificial intelligence. Laurent, you are the first one in this part.
Okay, I'll try to share my screen. Give me a second. I think someone needs to release.
Ah, yes, sorry.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
And now you can see the presentation full screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let me just take my notes. Okay, so this is in the area of artificial intelligence for network management. So we're a bit switching topics, and today I'd like to give a presentation on artificial intelligence for network and service automation, and especially to look into the standard enablers and some research directions. The slide set that you will see today is a bit more focused on the standard enablers. We'll give only a short overview of the research topics because it's quite big, and I think it will deserve another full presentation. And just to stress also that this is part of a larger activity inside Nokia. And this is only an extract of this work that we propose in the scope of NMRG. And if you're interested to learn more on this activity, or if you want to collaborate with us, because we have also related actions and activity in other SDOs, don't hesitate to contact me after the meeting or offline. We also hope that the content presented here will help to provide inputs to the AI research challenges document that Jerome will present just after this. And also, I have a lot of slides. Sorry for that, but we wanted to present the overall content. So I will go a bit quick on the first slide, which talks about the background, but you can look at them after, and in order to keep some time for the core part of the presentation. So some main drivers in this area of artificial intelligence for network and service automation. In fact, we see continuous innovation and progress, especially in the technology of AI theories and breakthroughs in new algorithm, etc. And also a continuous improvement in the performances of all these different techniques. In the area of data, more and more data being collected, also from different types of sources. Data also becomes available, I would say, everywhere in different area of the operator infrastructure. This data is also becoming more and more aggregated. It's not only a single types of counters that you can collect, but it comes from technological devices, but also from customer records, etc. So really different types of data being put together to be used as sources for the machine learning algorithm, and also more data awareness in the different organizations about the value of the data and how to organize operation and activities in the different organization to be data driven and have this data awareness a bit everywhere. On the compute side, this is pretty obvious. I mean, we are still quite pushed by continuous improvements in performances of the compute architecture, but also the fact that there are many different computing architecture, in fact, in support to especially machine learnings, and a continuous improvement of the performance of all the different architectures. For the tooling, this is very important in the era of AI and machine learning, a maturing ecosystem of different platforms, languages, and libraries that are most of the time publicly available via open source, very helpful to support the research and the progress and innovation in that area. And also very important, this aspect of pipeline automation. So not only providing the tools and libraries, but also to ease a bit the work of the developers and the integrators in curating data and the different automation that occur in the ML development process. Finally, on the business side, this is a bit more disruptive, especially different, I would say, models, how to deploy and operate machine learning as a service, AI as a service through APIs. And we see also more and more in the telco space collaboration, especially direct collaboration between web-scale actors and operators, and sometimes without telco vendors in the loop. So this is quite a change in how networks are being operated and who is involved in this new era. So there are drivers, but we also identify different gaps, especially that when we say artificial intelligence, in fact, most of the time we refer only to machine learning, and in machine learning, especially to deep learning, which was really the mainstream and what is driving the activity in that area. But there are many other techniques that also should be considered in the scope of AI, and especially if you want to be able to cope with the different problems that we face in network and service automation. The second main gap is that so far, AI-based solutions have been demonstrated in isolation, or especially towards specific use cases. So this is good because it shows that it works, but we're also a bit lacking all aspects about collaboration or coordination between different AI-based solutions. We have very limited aspect of generalization and automation across different technology, across different use cases. And also we are a bit lacking these reusability factors due to the lack of architectural principles, especially in the operator environments. Sometimes what work for a use case is difficultly replicable in other areas. And also the third gap related to this discussion today is the limited use or reliance on standards. I think you're very well aware that a lot of the activities in AI, across different industries, happens in so-called open research, open source, open data schemas. But we see also values in having standards being developed, especially for the telecommunication environments. So still in the infancy age of these AI standards for networks, but also that the standards needs to position itself to be able to provide value with multi-vendor and open solution in that area. And also the fact that without standards, we will miss some key properties like interoperability and reusability of the what is currently delivered via this kind of de facto software environment. Then to highlight a bit what we consider to be the scope for considering artificial intelligence and network and service management and automation. In fact, if you bring the two together, for us, we have broadly two main domains or cases of applications, which are what we call AI-assisted management and automation, which is where you you take current operations, current functionalities, and you try to inject AI into that or make them AI-based. And so you increase the efficiency and the support to human-driven operation. But you see, this is what you do today, and you do it with AI. The other main scope with AI, what we call AI-enabled or AI-empowered, which is really to try to discover, unveil new areas, new way of doing things that were not possible without AI, either due to the complexity or due to it was too challenging to process the amount of data, etc. So it's really to not do what you can do today, it's to do more things, new things. And in fact, as a conclusion, we need really to have an advanced integration and embedding of the capabilities which is needed to maximize the use and efficiency of AI-assisted and AI-enabled management automation. So we really think it's important not only to work on the AI techniques, but also on how they get integrated and how we embed them with the network environment. In terms of a bit coverage, these high potential areas, I will not explain each of these, and in fact, it's not exhaustive. It's just to highlight that, in fact, you can apply AI techniques virtually everywhere in the networking environment, and you can have different types of problems, different benefits, different types of techniques you can apply. And so the goal and kind of an underlying challenge that we start to see here also is it's to find solutions or capabilities that are really reusable and replicable so that you can apply it end to end. So for all the management tasks and all the operations that operators are doing, and not only always specialized and use case-based techniques. So a kind of counterpart to that, it's kind of a problem technique mapping, and it's absolutely not prescriptive. It's in fact to consider typical panel of techniques that you could use to address some of the problems and AI tasks. But we don't see any limit here. I mean, it's just a kind of indicative mapping, because maybe tomorrow someone will use a technique never used before for this kind of problems and may trick it in a certain way, and it will work and have very great results. So this we don't know. But it's just that for some of the AI type, what you see a bit on the left is that depending on the type of, I will say, task that you are after, if you want to get some explanation, a diagnosis, this is essentially when you need to have pattern or even detection and recognition. You can address anomaly detections, data protection breach, etc. And then you have certain set of algorithm that fits well to these kind of problems. And then if you are, for instance, for prediction and search, then you can use different types of techniques. And if you go in fact to the last kind of level, which is prescriptive and decision making, then you can see also that the type of algorithm are a bit different, and you go more towards structured learning, reinforcement learning, multi-agent system, where we really connect with a bit more actuating on the network and not just learning patterns or identifying clusters. Then we have also tried to categorize some set of key challenges for AI and network management, or AI and networks together. So first, I mean, just to be a bit too specialized in our own field. So first, it's that networks are hard AI problems. Networks are distributed, dynamic environments, usually heterogeneous in terms of technology and types of operation and choices from operators. And also, we also face more and more the kind of challenge related to encryption. We have also complexity in the data sets that we face in network environment. It can be logs, it can be performance counters, it can be customer records, etc. So very types of data sets, and also very technology specific or domain specific, and the relative complexity also in the algorithm to deal with this complexity in the data sets. And also we have high dimensional spaces in the network data, and they are also heterogeneous and diverse. I mean, if you go to the access network, if it's fixed access or mobile access, 3G, 4G, 5G, it's different types of data types, and also diverse because you have different formats for different applications, different vendors, etc. And the last point, which starts to be a bit less of a challenge recently, but access to network data can also be sometimes difficult and challenging, and you have a lack of reference label data sets in many different applications. A second challenge is on the confidence in AI. So AI technology introduced new challenges and specificities, such as you can have performance degradation over time. If the profile of your data changes, you need to retrain, at least minimum retrain your model. Sometimes you may even need to change it. Data sensitivity, data bias, adversarial inputs, some issues related to governance to address properly security and privacy on the data used by the machine learning algorithm. Shift also from a kind of deterministic and provable algorithm that we have in many applications in network environment to the typical machine learning paradigm, which is based on stochastic and statistical paradigm. And also challenges related to explainability, accountability of how the decision process was made by those algorithms that we don't necessarily understand the inner workings. So on top of that, we also see the need for a comprehensive framework to increase confidence in the use of AI. Human-AI interactions as a third challenge need to support, I mean, we can have different levels of intelligence provided by the AI, and then different level of support to the human operator from assisted to empowered. As you remember, we explained in the scope. So how to assist or extend the human operator in the service design, the parametrization and operation. You don't assist the same way on the different phases and depending on what the human operator is capable of doing. And also have adaptive intelligence automation based on dynamic levels of automation and supervision. You'll be able to trade and to delegate different levels of autonomy to your AI operations. Also different roles and interactions between the AI-based system and human operators, a bit what you see in the below diagram, that depending of what the role of the AI versus the operator, the human operator is, it's more or less like a combination of augmenting the human, assisting the human, or replacing him. Finally, a fourth challenge we call AI diversity is that, the AI techniques are not, it's a broad set of different techniques with quite different characteristics, and then they will have different requirements and standardization needs. Also, the overall design, integrating and leveraging individual AI properties needs to be put forward. Coordination between distributed AI applications to ensure coherent end-to-end operation, how we can cope with this diversity and make sure that we can coordinate in a useful way. And also the fact that the software environment supporting these AI-specific systems are also diverse and sometimes even proprietary. Then what we see as very important to understand this journey is what we call the joint evolution of AI and ops. So we don't consider only AI in isolation and network management or network operation in isolation. We really think that it's a joint evolution. So we want to go from what we see on the left side, which is a bit the situation today, what we call raw AI and automated ops, to the kind of ultimate stage in 25 and beyond, intuitive AI and autonomous ops. And to go through that, in fact, we can consider various criteria, what you see on the left, AI and data, scale and adoption, practice and integration, confidence and security, standards regulation, etc. So what we want to insist in this slide, and again, I will not go into the details due to lack of time, but it's that it's not only driven by AI techniques or AI technology development. This is just the first row, what the AI can do and what the type of data you need to have. And also we see there are still valuable unlock to do there. But it's not only that. There are other things which are more on the penetration of AI in the infrastructure, also the know-how, the practice of using and developing AI specifically for networks, but also what I said about this confidence and security, making sure that we can safeguard the AI operation and adopt it at wide scale, etc. And the very importance of standards and regulation, standards for interoperability and regulation in order to make sure we comply with the right frameworks and policies in terms of addressing privacy, security, and other related ethical issues. Then to frame a bit the approach here is it's to show a bit where we see. I mean, it's not that you will have AI only in one of a small area in the network. It will really be pervasive everywhere. As you can see at the bottom, we can have it in the different segments, different domains. Also capturing the specificities of AI being deployed in such environment. If you deploy on a smartphone or a sensor, it's not the same type of AI and I will say computing environment that you can get if you deploy it in a big data center. And also if you go up, I mean vertically, you have AI in the data plane, but also you will have application of AI for the control plane and also the management plane, which is the main area of concern for network management and network operations. And then in the different network management domain, you will have AI dedicated, for instance, if it's operating in the RAN access, or if it's operating in the core, or it's operating in the transport. So you can have also capture different specificities of the operations there, and also the end-to-end service management. And what you see also, sorry, this kind of arrows, it's not limited to only management and operation, but also the interactions with the control and the data plane and with the, I would say, the human operator and the network operating and service operating centers. In terms of standardization scope, I will go very quickly on that. So just to consider three main areas, key enablers and functionality. Really, I will show some slide on that, but this is really the core of what we think should be the enablers to put forward in order to really make sure we can integrate and support fully functionality and operations based on AI. The second aspect is support for deployment and diversity. This aspect is very important because the first one is really to say what we need to develop to make it work, to make it integrated. The second one is if you develop enablers, you want to make sure that you can reuse them and apply them to as many scenarios as possible, as many technologies as possible, as many use cases as possible. So you don't want to develop an enabler that will be too specific, for instance, to a given technology or a given protocol or a given deployment. You want to make sure that you can use it as broadly as possible. And so we see also a role that when we design these enablers, when we specify them, and I would say the research topics we need to investigate, we need also to make sure that our design is extensible and portable. The final aspect, trust and adoption, this is really because it's not just because you have good technology and you can apply it in many areas that it will get adopted. With this change going to more and more AI-based operations, we need also to support the user, the operator, different verticals that will reuse this technology in having the right frameworks in place, a trust building framework, a security framework, and all these different techniques in order really to support and make sure that when you use AI technologies and are deeply embedded in your infrastructure, you can know how they operate, you can audit them, you can have explanation, etc. So the way we have structured, we propose to structure the some of the standardization aspect and research aspects for network and service automation using AI is with these so-called enabling areas. We have identified 6 of them: execution, data, inter-AI, actions, governance, and inner AI. And for each of them, in fact, we try to describe what we consider to be important and how this contributes to being an enabling area for AI-based operation. So for instance, of this execution or execution environment is really to consider versatility of and this continuum of where the applications can be deployed. We can think, for instance, of some of the work being developed in the COIN-ERGI about this data discovery, data availability, and the counterpart on the execution and compute, where is the compute, what is the form of compute, and how you can deploy your applications on top of this distributed computing environment. So really finding the good combination between deploying the AI in terms of operations and also the access to data. And we relate that to a set of different standard needs. So having the ability, for instance, to express requirements and constraints for the different deployment options of the AI applications. Can I run more or less distributed? What are my requirements in terms of computing, processing powers, storage, etc.? And the counterpart is what my infrastructure is providing as capabilities. And in fact, we need to match those two sets of capabilities and constraints in order to be able to support a wide variety of deployment scenarios and to automate, in fact, those scenarios. For the data enablers, it's a bit the same situation. Is in fact to ensure that we have access to the right data at the right place at the right time. And there are many challenges related to that. Sometimes data is not available, or data is meaningful only for a certain amount of time. So we need also to be able to localize the AI execution with where the data is collected or where the data is meaningful. There is also an issue in the representation of the data. We have already good data collection platforms, but we need also to work more on the description of what the data is, the so-called metadata, especially if we want to be able to automate. If I don't want a human to say, I understand that this is this performance counter, and I need to plug it as input to this machine learning. If we want a machine to do that, we need to have descriptors of what the data is, even going towards maybe some ontologies describing this. So we see a role for the standards and some research aspects related to that. Also, the fact that the data patterns are dynamic and will change over time, especially in our networking environment. So limited validity of the learned model, limited generalization of the inferred knowledge. So this was considered an important area of research. Inter-AI.
Laurence, excuse me to interrupt. I think you have maybe to move forward maybe to some conclusion, because I think we'll have not enough time to cover everything. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I will. I know it's a bit long. I will accelerate. So we have still 3 other enablers. So inter-AI is really to consider everything related to interactions, interpretation, when you have multiple AIs being developed. If you remember the diagram I've shown, you will have a lot of different AI instances everywhere for different applications, but you will have also to orchestrate how they operate together. And there is a lot of standard needs and research aspects to investigate there. Actions, very important one. This is really for closing the loop of automation. If you have an output of an AI or machine learning algorithm, it can be a score, it can be a vector, it can be different forms, but you cannot use it right away out of the AI. So if you want to automate the usage of this output, you need to plug it to the right actions, to the right orchestration, etc. So this is very important also, and related to data, this aspect of describing what is the output and what is the action I can activate. Governance, this is a very, very important area. As you can see, a lot of different consideration and standard needs. This is really to consider usability, trust, and integration of the AI component in a network and service automation operation. In our AI, this is a bit different because this is really considering what's inside. This is the different techniques, self-supervised learning, new forms of deep learnings or algorithm, etc. What will be the evolution of inner AI and the potential new standard needs that may emerge from that. We also have other additional important considerations at the architectural level, going towards machine reasoning, security, which is a very important aspect that we consider transverse to these different enablers we have considered, and ethics and regulation, which more and more becomes integral part of the technology development. So this is a slide about the research topic overviews, and I think you can understand why I cannot go into much more detail, but each of these boxes, in fact, represents a kind of research topic or research area related to AI in network and service automation. And you can see also that there are a lot of connectivity between each of these research topics and the other topics. So the color code is mapped to the different enabling areas, but you can see also that across the different enabling areas, you have a lot of relationship and interdependence between the different topics. And finally, just to summarize, because I think we're already quite over time, this is a bit to frame what we believe could be good directions to push forward. Go deep, This is in fact to maximize automation by really enabling the integration of the full range of AI capabilities. Second, to go wide. Again, if you have excellent enablers, excellent AI technologies, but they are too specialized, then you are missing something. So go wide is in fact to be able to make sure that you can support the broadest application and deployment diversity for the telco and also vertical scenarios. So to ensure portability, reusability. Go safe is in fact this aspect of, if you want to foster an adoption, you need to make sure that you can provide support the human in understanding how the AI works, how it is integrated, what it is doing, and also very important governance and security frameworks to safeguard the AI operation. So that's it. Sorry for being long. It's a very dense content, and I will really welcome if you have further comments or interactions of that.
So any comment? Laurent, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Then because I got an error message when I was speaking. Okay, I think it's really interesting. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have much time to discuss. I think yeah, there are also some overlaps, as you say, with what we are doing in the other document, in the group, and also some that we can, I think, really also benefit from each other, from the different ideas. And I think it's really, now we don't have really time to go down deep, but I would really like if we can in the next meeting, if we can really arrange more time to discuss a bit more what you present here, and also a very maybe dedicated meeting to AI interim meeting, because I think it's too short now. Too much content.
I understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So maybe we move to the next item. And of course, anyway, we can also discuss then on Gather. I think we have time also. So the next is my presentation. So let me share my screen. And okay. So I will try also to keep it short. So yes, I will present the status of the let's say document and research challenge in AI for network management. So just really a quick update. So we have here the link for the Google Doc. So basically, we started to work on this document by drafting some challenges that people have in mind, and we have several ones. Some regarding similar to what Laurent presented before, regarding data, regarding AI technique, regarding keeping human in the loop, and so on. Recently, we have a new challenge that has been proposed. There are some slight modification to a new one, and the new proposed challenge was regarding scalable or real-time monitoring. So really, it's just an extract of this challenge that has been proposed. There are some comments that have been raised. Because I mean, this is one was regarding what is the specificity of the challenge regarding to network management, why existing techniques, let's say for real-time analysis of let's say big data and heterogeneous data cannot work, and try to figure out why it's so different in our domain. That's some of the comments. We had virtual meetings in November to discuss mostly the scope and objective of the document. One major discussion point was regarding, let's say, the scope and the boundaries of the document, both from the network management perspective and from the artificial intelligence perspective. Mostly, we say that we should not focus on particular application domains or problems. And as we already say, we don't want to have this document to be a collection of use cases. Although one problem was regarding, one issue was regarding AI, what we mean by AI in the document is very important to clarify. We mostly have in mind machine learning, but still there is some challenges that is described in regarding other techniques from AI. So We should be clear on what are the boundaries of AI, if you want to integrate everything in the document or not. We don't have the answer yet, but we have to be clear and so use really precise terms, because the document should be also, let's say, not only for us, but also for AI experts, and should be developed in conjunction with AI experts. We also want to highlight in the document, before just saying we have challenges, highlight why we have these challenges, what makes the basically network management problems, why these problems will require artificial intelligence, because of course there are maybe different answers to that, because we have too many data, too complex data, too much storage data, we need fast decision, and so on. And we cannot just rely on human experts. So there are some introduction content that has been proposed. And also maybe there are also new problems that we can now solve with AI that we don't think before. And also I think it's something that you highlight, Laura, in your presentation before. We already discussed what should be the value of the document in order to refine the scope and objective of the document. What has been raised is that the idea is that what we see today is that there are a lot of test and try method in different, let's say, research paper. For example, we just take different methods of AI to apply to our problem and say, okay, this method works better, or we adapt a bit, we tune the method a bit, and then it works. We want something. We want basically to help that rather than having a test and try method, help people to really identify what are the issues when they want to apply AI to their problem in order to have a better guidance on how they can apply AI. So basically, we want to make the bridge between a network management problem and AI solutions. That is a proposition now. Everything is still discussed. There are different obstacles. So we discuss a lot about what AI techniques for what problem, but of course, it's just only one issue when that trying to find the right, let's say, AI algorithm for your problem. It's only one issue, and there is other obstacles, for example, regarding explainability, education, how to use AI, and so on. So it's not only about technical, let's say, issue as well. We don't want, as I said before, we don't want to be the document the set of use case. We don't want to be the document as a survey between what has been used for the different network management problems. Otherwise, it will be always endless, and I think we will never reach a consensus of what should be the right technique for each problem. And we finally, I tried to put in the document, let's say, a scope, a tentative scope, following this meeting. That here is just an extract, so you can see the full proposal in the Google Doc. But basically, we want also to have a method on top of the challenges in order to identify the challenges, rather than saying that we have challenges. Of course, we know that we have, but maybe we would also have a method and check if we cover all important or all relevant challenges. And that is also the idea of the document, to have a method around that. And yeah, the objective of the document to provide the reader is justify set of challenges. So, I mean, it's important that the challenges are justified and not just actually not because we think they are important. And maybe sometimes it's better also, or it's easier to define what the document should not be. So it's a bit a summary of what I said before. It's not a survey of the use of AI technique in network management, not a mapping between techniques. It's not again a use case document, and we don't expect in this document to provide answer or solution to all challenges that we will introduce. Next step, I would like to have in the next couple of weeks to have the scope fixed. So, of course, you can give now the feedback on the scope of the document, but also on the mailing list. We will have more maybe interaction, more time on the mailing list as well. And then, yes, on the scope of the document is fixed, we can refine the method to identify the challenge. And also, we also spotted that challenge are described in a really different level of detail. So we need some kind of a coherent description, coherent content into the different document. Although there is discussion, should we continue with Google document or draft? So I will also, let's say, do a poll on that in the mailing list to see what will be the people preference. And with that, I'm done. So I think if you have any quick question or comment, I can take now. Okay, so if there is any comment now, I think we can move to the next point on the agenda. That is so multi-level configuration. The presentation will be given by Luis.
Yes, hello.
You want I share the slide, right, for you?
Yes, yes, please.
So Luis, may I ask you to speed up a bit your presentation to keep in 5 minutes?
Sure.
5 minutes. Thank
you. Sure, I will try.
Let me. I'm really sorry that I have a bit.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so first to mention what I will present on behalf of my co-authors, Ian Bogdanovic and Sufen Liu from Volta. And maybe you can recall this topic was also raised in the mailing list, some propositions from Ian, and then we start discussing on top of that, and the result was this document that I will present right now. So next slide, please. So essentially, the motivation would be how to handle the situations that we see in operational networks, where essentially a number of device configurations grow along the time, and it's quite difficult to have a clean configuration, a base configuration, and essentially we have let's say residual configurations along, so which are motivated by different reasons. For instance, debugging these sessions in order to solve problems that where the people operating the network start configuring things, dynamic evolution of protocols or peers or whatever, where you maybe could prepare some BGP sessions that later on are left there without traffic or something, things of this kind of things. Okay, so essentially all the configuration information is finally present in a single file, a plain file. So all these multiplex there somehow, which is hard to manage. And even though there are solutions proposing central databases with all the network configuration files that could be persistent on time and so, this does not resolve the problem at all. So we would like to look at this from a different angle. That is the one that we will present in the next slides. So next one, please. So, can you go to next one, please? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
There is an issue on Jérôme's side. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have an issue with your side. I think it's okay. Yeah, I don't know. My computer was a bit locked for a few seconds.
Okay. Okay, so where this multi-level configuration could help. So we have identified a number of use cases. We will go through more detail for the service assurance and network slicing in the following slides, but I will briefly comment here some other two, like the network migrations and merging. So essentially in all these procedures, which are quite complex, if we need to go directly through the plain file, having all the configuration, this is actually hard. So probably having this multi-level configuration could help at the time of migrating or merging networks in such a way that we could divide the problem in small pieces and targeting those pieces in a more easiest way. And also the zero-touch provisioning, in the sense that once we deploy some device and so we could perform this incremental configuration in pieces as well, so making it much more easy to handle. We will go now to the next two. So the service assurance and network slicing to have more detail on that. Service assurance, all of you are aware of the draft from Benoit that has been presented several times here. about the service assurance architecture. So basically, this draft proposed a closed control loop that could modify the configuration in real time, the running configuration, according to different intents and operational states. So this could imply a lot of dynamic configuration changes. And here we do foresee the role of this multi-level configuration in the sense that could help on identifying by design from the starting of the configuration, the correlation among those services and atomic functions in the network in such a way that we could have somehow the hooks or the links between the different pieces for supporting this service assurance approach in this, let's say, layer way. Next slide, please. Regarding slicing, here the concept also applies straightforward in the sense that in the slice concept we will have either slices being hierarchical, so covering more than one layer, or even on the same layer, basically taking profit of the recursivity. So one slice could be sliced at the same time, okay? And also the sequential slicing, so the stitching of the slices and so on. The multi-level configuration here could be easily taken as a point in order to understand that each of the slices that we will deploy will be essentially one of these levels. If we have on top of that some hierarchy or some recursiveness, we could also apply this level on top of the existing levels and making it incremental. Next slide, please. So here you can see an easy example. So we could have a baseline, an underlying infrastructure that could be the figure at the bottom, and on top of that figure to deploy different slices. So each of these slices will be represented by these different levels of configuration. So we have there the blue on the left and the red on the right. So this would be essentially two levels of configurations on top of the base configuration that would be the one marked in black at the bottom. So essentially, the black one will be the persistent. In case of whatever outage or issue in the network, we will recover that black one, while the red and the blue could be later on deployed on top of the black in an easiest way. Next slide, please. So the proposal essentially is visually you can see what would be the idea on the figure. So essentially having these different levels of configuration, and you can associate that to multiple panes of glass in such a way that you could start doing incremental things, linking these things, associating these things to the multiple levels in such a way that you could grow or scale up or scale down into the configuration depending on as long on the time, and being sure that the persistent information is kept and somehow, even though we would keep having this plain figure, to start linking, let's say, these multi-levels in such a way that we can operate in a more easiest way, having so dividing the problem essentially and having this incremental approach. Each level can be handled in an independent manner. So we will minimize the impact in other levels, and this applies fully for the case of slicing, for instance. And each level will be autonomous and cooperative. And this, for instance, applies very, very straightforward to the service assurance case, as well as the other two, the mergings and the zero touch. For the mergings, for instance, you can see, or the migration, we could take one of these pieces individually and start migrating part by part instead of touching all the configuration at once. So next slide, please. So we have presented this to the routing working group as well as also here. So we expect to work in completing the description of the proposals and identify viable solutions and approaches. So this is yet an idea. We need to land this idea to something much more concrete. And for sure, we would like to collect feedback and comments from the research group. And for sure, we will prepare a new version for next IETF. So apologies for being a hurry, but I would like to save time.
Thanks, Luis.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Luis. Yes, Robert.
Hi, just a quick question is, it might be worth presenting this also in NetMod, and I wanted to ask whether you're aware of the NMDA architecture, the network data store architecture used for NetConf, because that already has the idea of separate data stores representing different types of data within network configuration. And it may be worth looking at whether you could use separate data stores to manage these different layers. And then the interesting questions become about how do you merge that configuration data together. And a separate interesting question is about how do you map the operational state data back again, given that when the underlying device is going to see a merged view of that configuration. But that might be an approach that's worth considering.
Thanks so much for the comment. Let me take it internally with my co-authors and oh, I think Dean is there, so maybe Dean can comment on this.
Yes. Hey, Robert. On the NMDA data stores, it is fine as long as you don't try to create management separations, because the idea there is that you can have a completely separate owners from the management perspective of parts of the configuration. So we looked into that, but we haven't finalized it. But based from initial looks, what we saw that there are some missings in the NMDA that allow complete separation, management separation.
So Dan, just to reply to that, is that things like the NACAM side, the access control, that you have particular concern about?
It is not just the access control. It is, I want to be viewed as a completely separate owner.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the comment and questions. And thank you, Luis, again for the presentation. So let's now move to the last meeting. That is an update on the concept of digital twin network. So I think the presentation is done by Zhu and Diego, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't know which one has to start. I'm happy. So,
okay.
Should I start? Are you going to start? It's fine to me. Well, if you make the introduction, I will make the comments on the aspects that
Yeah. Hi, Chairs. Hi, Diego. I think I can prepare most of them, and ask Diego to present slides 3 and 4. Okay. So I think we can start. And this is Chen Zhou from China Mobile, and today Diego Lopez and I will jointly present the draft update of the concept of digital twin network. Next slide, please. Okay, in meeting 108, we introduced the initial version of the draft, including the definition, benefits, and the challenges of digital twin network. Since last update, there are 3 major updates from initial version. The first 2 updates were provided by Diego Lopez and Antonio Pastor from Telefonica. And they are about adding, refining, adding a new 5th element to the key element names orchestration, and added 2 more benefits in section 3. And the third update is we added a new section for reference architecture of digital twin network. Next slide, please. So, Diego, I give you the floor. Thank you.
Yeah. If you look at the this is the original diagram with these orchestration elements added on the at the bottom right. Basically, the idea is that since we believe that we should add some mechanism for controlling the data and action flows. That's, I mean, breadth of the twin. So, well, on one hand, you're able to to guarantee repeatability, so you can replicate network conditions on demand, not necessarily exactly the same that are happening in a certain moment. So you can have several, as I said, several, let's say, individual twins, and you have the possibility of reproduce by replaying as a section of events under control variations. The idea is that you have a much better with the twin, you have a much better way of managing or dealing with different choices, alternatives, or situations that may happen. And for sure, for this to be useful is something that you need a good network model that allows you to make this orchestration in a reasonable time. Next one. So apart from that, when talking about the digital twin, we found some internal discussions that there were other, at least two potential benefits. For the moment, we probably, I don't know if as the work go on, we will identify another ones. Basically, one is about privacy preservation. Everything that happens in the twin, every processing that you may have in the twin with the external modules or external elements, and it's based on data that is filtered by the twin, and in many cases synthesized by the twin. So it's much better. It allows us to deal with the data, process the data, apply the knowledge without violating privacy requirements, and this is something that as well is connected as well with the idea that, for example, when dealing, and this is a concern in network management right now, is about what happens when end-to-end encryption becomes completely pervasive, and the network management mechanisms become quite blinder than they are right now. And so with this idea of adding or enhancing the twin with the possibility, we should be able to deal with them. And apart from that, and this is a we are using it in we are developing a project for doing with cyber ranges in which people may play under different conditions and security evaluations and all the like, and we have as well the evaluation of different choices. And I hand it over to you, Sue. Sorry.
Yeah, you may need really to speed up because the session will close in 2 minutes. We really need to see the conclusion on this. Thanks.
Sorry. So, can you move on to the next one, Joe? It's up to
okay. Okay, let's take the turn. Let me take the turn. This slide shows the reference architecture of GTN system, and it can be designed as a 3-layer system. The bottom layer is a physical network. Sorry, the previous page. Oh yes. And our bottom layer is physical network. Physical network can be of various type, including telecommunication operator network, data center network, campus network, etc. And all network elements and equipments in physical network exchange massive network data and the control messages. with digital twin entity via southbound interface. A middle layer is a network digital twin. It is the core of a DTN system. This layer includes 3 key subsystems: data sharing repository, source mapping models, and digital twin entity management. Network digital twin entity layer gets service requirements from network applications, then take simulations by service model instances. Then after full verification, the change controls can be deployed safely to the physical network. And the top layer is a network application layer. Both conventional and innovative applications can run against the DTN platform with low cost and less service impact on real network. Network management, network applications provide requirements to network digital twin entity via northbound interfaces. Next page, please.
Zoom, I may ask you to go to maybe the conclusion now, because we have to close the meeting not only now. So can you go to conclusion?
Okay, let's go to the final page. Okay, so for next step, we are to consider dynamic data collection through day-end orchestration with it is traced by Spider project, and we are to analyze requirements on flow provenance, and it is traced by another Inspire 5G Plus project, and we are to investigate more use cases and requirements, and to define basic southbound and northbound interfaces of DTN system. Welcome to join our work, and any comments are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheng and Diego, for the presentation. Unfortunately, we cannot take the comment and question now. I have seen there is one on Jabber, so you may also have a look. So let's continue the discussion over the mailing list for the sake of time. So, and okay. Also I want to thank you all for presenting and participating to this session. So we'll of course publish minutes, and we'll continue the different discussions that we unfortunately have to put have been shortened today over the mailing list and other meeting. Thank you all.
And you can also join on Gather. If you stay, you will be automatically switched to Gather, and we can continue discussion. Thanks a lot for everyone.